tell, do you see the road? I'm to my soul into the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 13th part of, What If BEN10 Meets the Boys? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of AU-Fan62 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Vought. Stillwell was in her office with Ashley as they went over the ratings of the 7. Finally they had a good day. It may cost them tens, perhaps hundreds, of millions of dollars to repair the damaged parts of the tower, bought private and public property as well as other expenses. All points of the 7 shot up. Turns out a real-life alien attacking was good for their business. Fans were especially happy that all the members of the 7 were involved in the fighting, rather than just one or two. Deep was gaining special attention for his involvement, harming himself to give them other members a good opening was giving him status almost next to a martyr. A-Train too for how he repeatedly saved his teammates. Starlight, Black Noir and Maeve for their brilliant hits. And of course Homelander for his blows, while he was still ahead of everyone his numbers weren't that far from the others. Scene cut. Stan Edgar was in his office having called construction company, one that's been in business since making suburban housing back in the 50s. They would begin immediately, coming in the morning to repair the damages to the tower and such. Thankfully the main structure was still intact, despite a few large holes in the walls. Stan then turns to a photo on his desk, with his late wife and young daughter. Taking his phone he called his daughter, it went to voicemail as expected but he still decided to speak. "Rachel, it's me, your father. I know you don't like me calling you but I just wanted you to know I'm fine and I wasn't hurt. I love you and I hope to see you soon." Hangs up and sighs. Edgar then takes out a letter he hadn't had time to read today. Opening it he quickly schemes it and sighs again before burning it and dropping it in the trash. Then decided to go home. However he was a little haphazard in doing this and a portion of it fell to the ground that stopped burning. Short while later. Madeline Stillwell walks into his office discreetly. Thanks to all the damage the tower was running on backup power, so security systems weren't fully functioning. Including Edgar's. She starts to go through things to find something on him so she could keep her job. Or at least not make him push Homelander so much that he does something even more horrible than taking down an airplane of people. Opening the drawers she finds nothing. Well, nothing incriminating. His computer is completely locked and password protected, even more so than the other board members. Plus someone that's smart wouldn't leave anything incriminating on his work computer. Letting out a sound of frustration she noticed something by the garbage. Ashes of the letters he was always getting. She tried finding out how he kept getting them. She's checked with the mail and found that despite all the letters he get, none go through Vought costumes. And he always burns them entirely, turning it all to ash. Except this time she might possibly have something. A piece managed to stay intact and didn't fully burn. Picking it up she sees that it was a downward strp from the left side. First she reads the word dear, then below it is the word don't, then below that plan, followed by young, and uni dash, which was followed up by almost, and last was almost 2 words, my free dash. Looking at the trash she takes the bag of ashes, which fortunately was the only thing inside and walks out with it. It was a Hail Mary, but it was her only chance to keep her job and possibly even oust Edgar. Secret base underground in an unknown location. The commander of the G3 soldiers watched as a comatose Vilgax was lowered into a clear tank of very reinforced glass that was filled constantly with the special red knockout gas. Commander Solomon, Sir, the Magister is requesting an update. One of the masked soldiers said, bringing up a tablet for a video call, though no picture of the Magister was seen. Magister. The man now identified as Solomon greets with a salute. We've recovered the alien and placed him in the tank in the facility. If you longing will start running tests immediately. He says with respect for his superior's authority. No. A man's distorted voice comes out. Focus your efforts on strengthening our defenses and concealing the compound's location. Now that the public knows about us, it may just be a matter of time before someone discovers it. He orders. Very well, Magister. Solomon obeys. Though with your permission might I suggest we confront Shifter. He give us clues as to why these things are here, perhaps even answers. He suggests. Your thinking is reasonable, but no Solomon. The Magister denies. Our secrecy is more important than ever now. We no longer have the element of surprise, at least to the previous degree. For now send a team to these coordinates. I have received intel that we may soon have new enemies to worry about. I'll send a squad with air support. Solomon replies with a nod. Surveillance only. The voice adds. Under no uncertain terms are they to engage unless absolutely vital. Pause. I do not want a repeat of Nicaragua. He sternly demands. Of course, understood, sir. Solomon salutes. With that the call ends. Outside the city. At an estate in the forest, a woman was rewatching the battle involving Kevin, Ben, Vilgax and the 7 near Vought. She had a neutral expression that almost no person, if anyone, could read. As the screen shifted to the G3 soldiers, she commented to herself. So you're still kicking, you old BSTRD. Then turns off the TV. With Kevin. Kevin was outside the city and he was holding a case with him. Opening it, one would find vials of blue liquid, more commonly known by the higher-ups of Vought as Compound V. Picking up one, he smiled. Flashback. After delivering a quadruple uppercut on Kevin, the mutated 11-year-old was sent flying to one of upper floors of Vought. After a brief recovery, Kevin found himself in some sort of chemistry lab, with a scared doctor in a corner. What is this place? Kevin asks. He then looks around and thanks to his gray matter smart he could figure out he was making something powerful. Just not what. What is this stuff? He asks the scared chemist. Compound V. The scared doctor says. And what is that? Kevin demands to know, forming a blade with his hand. And after the beans were spilled, Kevin took a case full of it and thanks to all the fight snuck out of the city unnoticed. Flashback over. Opening up one vial, Kevin drank it quickly, hoping to get a power or ability to beat Ben once and for all. And after a few suspenseful moments nothing happened. Kevin looked over himself and growled before he started feeling funny. He soon began stumbling about, hitting trees, bushes, rocks and anything else. Grunting in pain he fell to the ground, and as the moon shined his shadow began morphing into something else. BEN10. The headline of the Vought News Network read, Terror Attack at Vought, as Cameron Coleman opens with. The things that can happen in less than 48 hours. Takes a small pause. Now that world finally has a moment to breathe, we can now take stock of the recent events. Welcome to 7 on 7. Your source of unbiased facts. What started out as Homelander informing us about the disappearance or loss of the much-loved invisible hero and fellow member of the 7 Translucent turned into madness. The Shifter, the unknown vandal who has been harassing Vought and its heroes for months, crashed the announcement and attacked our nation's greatest heroes. He says. The following battle devastated multiple properties, but even more shocking was the reveal that the Shifter was in fact a 10-year-old child. Ben Tennyson, his real name apparently, was then taken into Vought's custody where he received medical attention while under the watchful eyes of Vought. He informs. Then even more shocking, the 7 were being treated as they were the ones in the wrong and actually accused of child abuse. Unbelievable. Coleman scoffs. He attacked them. He enunciates. And he never gave any sort of indication that he as a child. Sure, there were some hints with hindsight. But it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. He then continues. We then learn the cause of this child's war on Vought. Pulls up pictures of Butcher, Huey, Frenchie and Kimiko. These individuals are the ones responsible for radicalizing a young adolescent mind, who was gifted with a remarkable power, into their personal weapon that they point any time they want. Lets that sink in. And as deplorable as making a child fight their battles for them was. Turns out their hands still have BLD on them. While Mr. Tennyson attacked the Seven, they infiltrated Vought Tower for some sort of sabotage, and when it went wrong they murderously slaughtered not only several of Vaught's security, but an entire floor of the company's best research team. Including one of Vaught's brightest minds, Dr. Isabella Validus' brilliant wife to her late husband and mother to her young daughter Elena, who is now missing. Sighs. I don't know what's worse, the fact they probably kidnapped a child, or that the cutting-edge research they were doing that could have helped tens of thousands at least is now just gone. He adds. As if that wasn't enough, Vought Tower was then under attack by the Chimera, the misshapen monster that attacked the city over a week ago. Coleman says, pulling up a still image Kevin from his first appearance, the scoffs as he continues. So the CIA held him for about a week, great job guys. He says with obvious sarcasm. And what did Ben Tennyson do to thank Vought for their patience, understanding and efforts to help him despite all he'd done? He asks with a fake curious tone. He chose to take advantage of the situation and turn Vought Tower into a battle zone. He states incredulously. Unbelievable. Of course someone must have said things couldn't get worse cause they got worse. Because almost at the same time, people at a local carnival witnessed some kind of squid monster emerge from the water. We have footage of the creature introducing himself. The footage then changes to Vilgax's introduction. I am Vilgax, conqueror of worlds, enslaver of species. I have come here to retrieve an object that is rightfully mine. The Omnitrix. You may not know that name, but you'll surely know the worthless worm that wields it. His name is Ben Tennyson, who uses the Omnitrix to transform into other species and try to defeat me. If you insignificant little pests value your worthless pathetic lives, then you shall do nothing to interfere. Many have tried to vanquish me and have repeatedly failed. And Tennyson, if you're watching, remember you cannot run, you cannot hide. If you don't reveal yourself soon, I shall rip apart this miserable rock and its inhabitants bit by excruciating bit until I find you. Footage then cuts off as Vilgax crushed the phone. The screen then goes back to Coleman. This Vilgax character then proceeded to brutally overpower young Tennyson while Chimera appeared to be part chicken, as he used the commotion to escape. Thankfully, if Vilgax wanted to destroy the country and perhaps the world, he had to go through the Seven. A smaller screen then showed a few selected clips of them fighting, mainly the ones of the Seven getting hits in. Though the greatest threat the world has even seen, our heroes were up to the challenge. Particularly the Deep, who used his powers to telepathically harm the monster, despite the overwhelming pain he had to cause to himself to do so. And then shows Deep receiving medical treatment and looking worse for the wear. What a hero. The screen now slowly zooms in on his face a bit. Now we are left with many questions. Where is Tennyson? Where is Chimera? Who were those G3 people, and are they an ally or an enemy? I can't answer those questions, but I can guarantee you two things. 1. Our heroes at Vought will continue to protect us all. And 2, we at 7 on 7 will be here, bringing you honest, unbiased facts. Anika's apartment. Ben, Elena and Kimiko are eating a delicious breakfast their somewhat terrified host prepared for them. While said host talks to her parents. Don't worry, I'm fine. She lies on the phone looking at her guests as she listened to her parents' response. Yeah, Mr. Edgar let us leave early that day off, so we were lucky. Pauses for the response. I love you too, goodbye. Hangs up and releases a breath she's been holding. Are you enjoying everything? Anika says, trying to be polite. I was actually really worried I wasn't gonna have food. Luckily enough, I bought groceries for the first time in a month a few days ago. She says. Yeah, it's good. Ben answers a little dishearteningly. Something wrong? Anika asks. Yeah, I'm in another dimension, without my family, now I have to stop a bazillion-dollar company whose main thing is super-powered dweebs, and to top it off the people who I thought were my friends lied to me about killing Translucent, one of whom released one of my worst enemies from prison. Ben speaks with frustration. Anika just stays quiet and goes to sit on her couch. What do we now? Elena asks. They knew they couldn't hide here forever. Figure out a way to stop Vought, I guess. Ben says plainly. How do you stop a big company like that? He asks. Take away all their money. Elena shrugs. That's not gonna work. Anika chimes in, getting attention on her. They'll just declare bankruptcy, and then rebrand everything. It's a tried and true tactic that's totally legal. We could say the truth about Compound V. Ben suggests. What's that? Anika questions. You don't know. Ben replies. I thought everyone in Vought would know. I'm just crime analytics. Anika reminds them, her job is to find and analyze crimes for Soups and pass it up the chain of command. Won't work. Without proof we might as well say the earth is flat and Beyoncé is white. Elena dismisses. Kimiko then makes some signs at Elena that neither Ben or Anika were familiar with. What did she say? Ben asks. She's suggesting we get information from someone high up in Vought. Elena translates then adds. But that's gonna be tricky since a bunch of the executives are probably also in the dark about Compound V. She informs. Yeah, those guys are all stocks and suits and banging with a secretary. Ben adds as he takes another bite. What are they banging anyway? He asks Anika. Drums. She lamely lies. SEC actually. Elena answers. We seriously need to give you a dictionary or something, it's like talking to an old dude. We're the same age. Ben reminds her. It's summer of 2008 in your universe. She reminds him. I'm pretty sure you guys still have those boxy TVs or flip phones that only DRG dealers here use. And yet we have alien technology and a government agency designed to fight them. Ben says. Well, had I think. Oh yeah, the plumbers, dumb name but it I guess for a secret organization that helps keep it secret. Elena says as she takes the dishes to the sink. Eureka moment. Maeve. Ben exclaims, jumping out of the chair. Immediately everyone tense and Kimiko starts darting her eyes around. Sorry, I just had a big light bulb moment. Ben apologizes. What about Maeve? Elena asks. She was acting really weird when I saw her. Ben says. She barely talked to me, or even looked at me directly. Ben states. Plus when I transformed back during our fight she had this stare. A stare? Elena questions, and Kimiko raises an eyebrow. You know the state where she's like. Ben tries to explain then attempts mimic it. Like she was sad or traumatized, like the old guy Private Ryan at the grave. Kimiko then makes a sign and Elena translates. Guilty. Elena raises an eyebrow. About what? I don't know. Ben says. Maybe something about Compound V, 'cause no way Annie knows. Yeah, pretty sure she isn't taking Huey's calls anymore. Elena added. So what, you want to talk to her again? Well, anyone really. Ben states. Where do they live? 7 Tower, it's part of their contracts or whatever. Elena says. And when they do go out they're always followed by cameras and whatever. Well, Anika speaks up, getting some attention. A few years back when I was just starting out, Maeve missed an event so I had to track her down. Turns out she was with her secret girlfriend. She informs. You think she might go there again? Elena questions. After all, it had been years. I forgot they put chips in them. Ben states, remembering that's what they were worried about when they had Translucent. When he was still alive. But we'd need a main Vought computer or server. Elena tells him, then has a moment of realization. Wait, she's a celebrity, and celebrities are always hounded by press or fans with cameras. You think someone posted where she is? Ben asked. Plus how do we know she'd even still be there? Could be a phony photo for all we know, like that guy's posting forearms punching a building to break it down. He points out. Kimiko then waves to get their attention and points to Anika who is doing something on her computer. Ah. She drgs on. No. Ben and Elena say, not wanting to put her in any more unwilling danger. Well, I'm just gonna go get some stuff and be back in like 20 minutes. Anika says, putting her laptop on the coffee table with the screen on before leaving. Goodbye. She walks out. Ben raises an eyebrow before noticing her computer left purposely opened with the screen facing them. What's that? He asks, pointing to the laptop. Elena goes over to it and sees it's asking to type the tracking chip frequency. And a specific set frequency was set, all that was left was to hit enter. I have an idea, but first we need to do some quick cleaning. She says. The boys. At some old warehouses on the water the boys and MM's family were waiting for Susan to come. Wraith was possessing Janine's body in order to be close by without exposing his body to the sun. Earlier in the day called her to move his family somewhere safe and Raynor gave them instructions to meet here with them, the V, especially Butcher. How much longer till they get here? Huey asks as he looks around for a sign of them. Please. Frenchie scoffs as he smokes a cigarette. They're probably deciding the best way to kill Butcher. A sniper is too easy. He theorizes. They wouldn't do that, would they? Huey asks, a little worried about this whole situation. Petit Huey. Frenchie says before adding. These are the same mother F heirs that created the Taliban and probably created 9/11. He reasons. Just then several vans begin to pull in. I really hope you're wrong. Huey prays. Relax. Frenchie says. They'll probably just kill Butcher, and if they don't his death will give us time to run. He tries, and fails to reassure. As soon as the first van stops Raynor steps out, throwing his gun to the nearest agent. Of course. Butcher sighs. You deserve this. Says as he grabs Butcher's arms to hold him. As Raynor gets closer Butcher tries to speak. Look Susan, can I just say UMPF-? He was cut off. Raynor began punching him in the face with all her might. She repeated this a few times before kneeing him in his PP and chalking him. As Butcher was getting closer to death by sophistication one of the agents stepped in. Susan, that's enough. A white dark-haired male says, pulling her off him and letting Butcher recover. You had your 10 seconds, now step back. UF British piece of FF. Raynor shouts at him, as two more agents come to hold her back. I'll F kill you. Look, I'm sorry. Butcher apologizes. Sorry. Raynor exclaims as she tries to lunge forward but is stopped. You threatened my family. My kids. In our F home. I had to get Benji out of there. Butcher tried to reason. You and that little SHT. Raynor responds. Where is he? Was it worth it? Susan, calm down. The agent from before says. Bad move. Mutters under his breath. He's gone, him and the girls. Butcher informs. Off doing F knows what. Big surprise. Raynor says as she's still being held back. Once he found out he much of screw up he took off. Probably the same as your wife. She shouted. Butcher clenches his fists and jaw as he lets Raynor have that. Eventually Raynor calms down somewhat enough to do her job. You assholes are so lucky. If it was up to me, I'd arrest you and lose the paperwork so that you get put in the worst SHT holes we have. She says. Here's the deal, you give us the compound V, I'll keep your loved ones safe, we don't speak ever again and hopefully Butcher gets hit by a bus. Deal. Mother's milk, says as he holds out a vial of the blue liquid, gesturing to his family. As Monique passes by, she says in a low tone, "I don't want to see you ever again." Though Janine Wraith hears it. As they head for the van, Janine slips from their grip and goes to hug her father. Presumably for the last time. Seeing this, crouches down and accepts the hug. "I love you, Daddy," she says with some tears in her eyes. "I love you too, baby," the father says, and they pull away. "Be safe." Wraith says he'll never leave my side. Janine says, voicing his thoughts. "Just not to the bathroom, that'd be gross." She adds, and they share a small laugh before they have to leave. As the vans pull out, walks away and heads towards Frenchie and Huey. "How you doing?" Huey asks. "I just saw my wife and kid leave in a CIA van with a ghost inside one of them as their bodyguard." Answers. "How do you think I'm doing?" With that, Huey shuts up. "What do we do now?" Frenchie asks, throwing his cigarette on the ground and stomping it. "Guess we wait." Butcher says. "Oh, so now you wanna wait?" Replies as they make their way back to the motel. Vought. Stillwell is at her desk on her computer with some charts on it. She was also checking her phone for any messages about that paper scrap and ash she brought to a contact that works with paper forensics. Apparently the paper was made from a less flammable material, so that combined with some other uncontrollable factors resulted in the ever so slight possibility they might reconstruct what it originally said. Or at least a part of it. So far the message she received was that it was gonna take a while and that it would cost a pretty penny to do. As they have to utilize chemicals and AI to have any chance at recovering what was written. Which was fine with Stillwell. She had until the next shareholders meeting. Which would have been next week, but thanks to all the chaos that happened it was pushed back. So hopefully that would be enough. She was interrupted from her thoughts when Ashley came in. "What do you have for me?" Stillwell asks. "Nothing." Ashley says with a frightful expression. "Nothing." Stillwell says, shocked. "How?" "Well, apart from the Sevens numbers getting a major boost, there's nothing I can tell you." Ashley says. "All of our cameras and monitors were cut during the fight, so we have nothing on file, and the building was almost empty, so almost no witnesses. Those G3 guys swiped the helmet after Deep took it off." She lists. "Who are those guys anyway?" Madeline asks. "Secret government agency, new branch, terrorist group. Nobody knows." Ashley says. "They've never been seen before last night, and most of what we can get is from crappy cell phone angles. All street cameras were suddenly down the moment they stepped in. And that man Homelander spoke with wasn't making a fashion statement, other than the fact he's white with white hair. We don't know anything about him." She informs. "Did you try our top contacts, what did they say?" Stillwell asks, since one of them was able to give them a heads up about the Flight 37 situation. "They're gone." Ashley says, then quickly adds. "Sorry, they're not dead, just they either been shuffled around, lost their jobs, or given a promotion to somewhere they can't help us." She informs. "All of them?" Stillwell asks. Ashley just nods in reply. "Well, what do the conspiracy theorists say?" "Long shot, but they might give us something." "I checked that too." Ashley says. "And they're all over. None of them agree on AF thing." Pauses as she pulls up some notes. "One thinks there's some secret terrorist group using time travel, another that there's some secret police to make sure America doesn't have a revolution, another that they were founded by George Washington as a secret army to control the day-to-day life, and one guy says the whole thing was staged so the military can look good in the eyes of the public again." She lists off. Saying it's AF madhouse is an understatement. Only thing they agree on was that this was the first time they've ever seen them. Stillwell leans on her desk and rubs her temples. "What about Vilgax?" "No way, they just disappeared." "Actually they did." Ashley corrects. We tried tracking them, but after going over the water they disappeared from sight and later satellites. They're total ghosts. F. Stillwell exclaims in frustration. There's one more thing. Ashley continues. One of our lab workers was still in-house working on a project and saw Chimera take a case of chemicals before he left. Ashley gulps, both of them knowing the chemicals in the lab were either compound V or related to it. Just then Madeline's child, Teddy Stillwell, started crying. Queen Maeve. Maeve was in her apartment at her bar chugging another bottle of cold vodka to add to the pile. She's covered in bruises from the fight with Vilgax and Ben, and every step she takes is done with excruciating difficulty. She never felt like this ever. Is this how normal people feel? She thinks as she slowly makes her way to another part of the room, limping partially, to find something to smoke, snort, drink or whatever. During this she trips on something, a discarded bottle or bong, and she grabs onto a table to avoid falling. With a frustrated grunt she pounds the glass table, shattering it, causing several things to fall to the floor. These were mostly decorative pieces with the exception of one. She can't remember when she put that there, but then again in the last 24 hours she's been thrown against more buildings in real life more than all of her movies combined. Picking it up she saw it was a photo of her and her ex-girlfriend Elena from a while back. One of the few times she felt like herself. She wasn't even in costume in this photo, just regular clothes. Remembering where she lived, Maeve got up and started walking, all while she was being tracked. Deep. The Deep was in a recovery room of a hospital being checked on by a nurse. Fluttering his eyes open he sees a lovely Filipino woman in scrubs changing his morning. She greets with a friendly smile as she continues her work. How are you feeling? She asks. Ah. Deep groans. Like my brain exploded. He answers. That feeling will pass. You lost a lot of BLD. She says. Yeah. Deep relies, then asks. Everything okay? Gestures to his whole body. Oh, of course you're fine, this was just a precaution in case you had a concussion. The nurse answers with a reassuring smile. I mean, you almost shattered your own skull. She adds. What? Deep asked, still in a bit of daze. After seeing that Shifter had escaped, Deep was escorted to a hospital to be checked out. And the doctors wanted him to spend the night. Look. The nurse says, pointing to a TV. On it was CNN's Don Lemon in a shared screen with Professor Richard Brinkerhoff of Godolphin University. So Professor Don Lemon begins. Can you explain to us what the Deep did during the fight with Vilgax and how he appeared to lose so much BLD? Because it seemed to also affect this Vilgax character, though not to the same scale. Brink took a moment to respond before saying. Well, I've taught many students here at GodU, and studied many different abilities, and what Deep did was simple, brilliant and risky all at the same time. How so? Lemon asks. Well, Brink starts. As many know, he has the ability to telepathically communicate with sea creature. He can't make them do anything he has to ask and they can say no. But that alone established a mental link with Vilgax, who was at least part squid. Pause. And if you pull up the image you'll see Deep wearing a helmet of sorts and an earpiece. A still image of the Deep wearing the helmet and earpiece comes up. Brink continues. And from what I understand, these did two separate things. 1. Deepened the connection so one could feel the other's pain. This case Vilgax's pain sensors were on the same wavelength with Deep's. And the second? Well, those pain sensors need to be triggered somehow, so the purpose of the other device was in simple terms to make those pain sensors reach their max so Vilgax would feel it. He finishes. So Deep gave himself a headache that Vilgax also felt. Lemon simplifies. That's a very oversimplification, but yes. Brink nods. Now what were the risks in doing this? I know you said it was risky before. Lemon questions. Very much so, Deep actually got off very easy. Brink says. How do? Was the response. Well, first off, the pain was excruciating. For example, it would have been less painful for him if Drummer Boy hit him with his most powerful attack at close range 10 times over. Brink starts. And this was a constant pain, that torturers could only dream of inflicting. It's a miracle if he doesn't have any brain damage. But like we tell our students, both current and former, that being a hero is not about glory, it's about sacrifice, and Deep was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice last night, like a true hero. Deep smiles at this, enjoying the moment. Sorry, but... Can I have your autograph? The nurse questions, holding out a pen paper for him with an awkward expression. Oh sure. Deep agrees, and slowly signs it as his head is still pounding like the worst hangover in history. Son or daughter? He asks. Nephew, actually. She tells him, then thanks him for the autograph before leaving. A-Train. A-Train's car pulled up in front of his brother's house. Slowly he stepped out wearing regular clothes and with his right arm in a sling. Turns out when he threw Maeve at Vilgax's leg, he dislocated it. And while he could move the rest of his body as his wounds heal faster, he still felt incredibly sore. Look who it is trying to blend in with us common folk. A-Train's brother Nathan Franklin greeted as he stepped out of his house to greet him. Sup man. A-Train greets as they go in for a bro hug, and as Franklin pats his brother's back. Ah. He grunts in pain. Oh man, sorry, you good? Franklin asks with the concern of a brother. Yeah. A-Train tries to reassure as he hissed in pain. Just every part of my body feels like it's going through a hangover. Can barely move. That why you borrowed Rihanna's driver? Franklin jokes, getting a chuckle out of his brother. But seriously, you killed it last night. Nah man. A-Train tries to deny. Dude, if it wasn't for you, those other guys would have gotten the white smacked off of them. Franklin says. Those aren't even my words, whole neighborhood is talking. Well, who isn't talking about last night? A-Train responds. Fair point. Franklin agrees as they head inside. But still, I know Mom is proud of you. A-Train just smiles at that, and remembering Grey Matter's words about him being a key component in their survival. As they went in, Franklin's kid started bombarding him with questions. Starlight. Annie was in bed in her room resting her everything. Similar to the other members, she was feeling sore all over her entire body, and any bruises were hard to discern from fighting Vilgax or when those G3 guys flattened the area just outside of the tower. At the moment she was looking at a picture of her and Huey she took when they went bowling. Of course this phone was new, since after fight with Ben the VOT text told her that her phone was bugged, so her photos and everything was transferred into a brand new one. She didn't know what hurt worse, the pain from fighting Vilgax or finding out Huey, the first genuine guy she ever liked in a long time, was part of some terrorist group or whatever. It would have been easy to dismiss him as someone she should hate, but it was all so confusing. He bugged her phone, but the text told it had been turned off for a while. Not to mention he didn't even try to ask for any information. Closest was about Translucent, but that seemed more like a fan thing than a spy thing. Especially because he was dead. He also paid for his ticket to see Ezekiel at the Believe Expo instead of having her get some for him. Did he really like me, or was he using me? She asked herself before letting out a sigh. Which stung a little. Hello. Sweetie. The voice of Donna January, Annie mother, spoke up as she entered the apartment. In here. Annie tiredly called from her bed as she put her phone down. Oh sweetie, how are you feeling? The mother asked with concern as she put her carry-on bag on the floor. Fine. Just sore. Annie tried to reassure her mother as she tried to shift her position, but hissed in pain. Like really sore. Oh well, you'll bounce back soon sweetie, don't worry. Donna said with full confidence as she sat down on the bed. You were wonderful sweetheart. I don't feel like I did. Annie says. Are you kidding? Donna replied. Everyone saw you took all that power from Times Square and fire it at that horrible Vilgax. She reminds her. You were a real star. Thanks, Mom. Annie replied, smiling a bit. And my friends were so jealous when they found out my daughter was Starlight of the Seven. Donna added with a smile. I mean, I was worried after the whole Chimera fiasco, but that doesn't matter now. We're the talk of the town now. They're even making a documentary about your origin story. How exciting. She says with a self-absorbed smile. Oh. Annie says, a little thrown off by what her mother was saying. Here she was sitting on her bed, sore and with bruises all over after the toughest fight she'd ever been in, and her mother can only talk about the fame. Her mom then gets up and starts taking pictures. What are you doing? Annie asks. Oh well, it's for when they want to do a full documentary on you. Donna says as she takes photos from different angles. They'll want pictures of you recovering. Too bad you don't have a cast or sling. Maybe we can color a black eye on your face. Mom. Annie tries to stop her. Oh, one more thing, we have an interview later with this new guy. Her mom ignored. I know it's last minute, but it's mandatory, and it's happening just downstairs. He's had some pretty big people on his show. Alexander was just on, your old boyfriend. And her mom continued. Black Noir. Noir was in full costume in an ice bath, just sitting in the freezing cold water, like an athlete after a tough practice or game. That WWW was a really tough battle, huh? A voice spoke to Black Noir, and the dark-themed Soup turned his head to see a cartoon beaver talking to him. I could tell. You were never more scared in your entire LLEFA. The beaver said to him. But you pulled through. He reassures. You've been through tough times before. The beaver continues. Soldier Boy is still gone. And Homelander is still your ally. He reminds him. It may be a tough climb, but remember the mountains before were just as hard. The beaver encourages, getting a nod from Black Noir. Let me cheer you up. How about a joke? And if one were to walk in, one would see Black Noir chuckling at nothing while looking at the wall. Homelander. The leader of the Seven was watching multiple news outlets, who were all reporting about the fighting last night. All were reporting positively about him and his team. They did single out Deep a bit, but that's fine, the little guppy could have his 15 minutes. What are you smiling at? A voice spoke. Homelander turned around and looked at a mirror. As expected, there was his reflection, but it wasn't exactly him. Sure, he was wearing the same outfit, with the same slicked back hair, but there were no bruises on his face, which had a pissed-off expression. You think you're strong? Please, you got your handed to you twice. I won, both times. The real Homelander spoke. You got lucky the first time. The mirror copy spoke. And the second time you had help. A lot of help in both cases. You were nothing more than a distraction so the others could save the day. The copy tells him. You should have won without them. They need me. The real one assures. To give them time. To wear M down maybe. The mirror speaks. But that's all, the Deep contributed more than you. The F-fish guy. Do you know how insulting that is? Well, he was a fish. Homelander reasons. A fish that beat the FCRP out of you like the goddamn PP you are. The copy says. The kid was right about you, John. He sneers. Homelander then shoots his heat vision at the mirror or shattering it. He then heads out of his room apartment. G3 Secret Base. Commander Solomon was in his commander center going over data. Double check and recheck everything. I want all weapons to be ready at a moment's notice should the need arise. Solomon instructs a soldier on a comm link. The calls upon another soldier in the room. I need a sit rep on Operation Shadow Veil. Yes, sir. One soldier said, coming up to him. Progressing smoothly, sir. We've been flooding bits of conflicting information, big and small, all over the internet. It appears to be successful as their suspected locations haven't even reached within our sector. The soldier explains. Though a few have theorized a possible location, specifically at Sector SD in Quadrant Noir. Solomon thinks over. That's our oldest base. Evacuate it and all equipment and personnel. He sternly order. I don't care if you to take apart the equipment bolt by bolt. Nothing gets discovered. He emphasizes. And I want it done last year. He adds. Scene cut. In the chamber where Vilgax is being contained, the two men in the room have one job. Scan the monitors to make sure the gas is flowing. A small light beeps, but it's so brief they do not detect it. That light signifies there's movement, and there was a twitch of a finger. Syria. A team of U.S. troops was sent to eliminate an ISIS stronghold. But right after an explosion in it they are never heard from again. One soldier in intelligence was trying to discover why by looking at the helmet camera footage. As soon as he did he was shocked. Sir. He called out for his commanding officer. With Edgar. Edgar was with his daughter at a coffee place. It was awkward for both of them as neither of them talked. Not that it was new, after his wife her mother died they just grieved in different ways that caused them to drift apart. So while he became the CEO of VOT in New York City she became a reporter in DC, changing her last name to her mother's so she wouldn't be seen as Edgar's daughter. She had come after his call just to make sure her father was okay. Regardless of their relationship they were still family. But after a few more pleasantries they parted ways. With Maeve. The 7-member was in civilian clothes right outside the apartment building of her ex. It was amazing how even though she didn't wear a mask people still seemed to think she was someone else when she was out of costume. One person even cursed out when they bumped into her. She went inside, unaware she was being watched. Rooftop. On a rooftop across the apartment building Maeve was going and 3 pairs of eyes were watching her. Guess she did come back. Elena says as she uses the camera on her phone as makeshift binoculars to see her walking. Why? Ben asked. What's the point? Probably to forget about what's making her feel guilty. Elena theorized. Kimiko then makes some signs which Elena responds with. Pretty sure she's killed people before, so people dying should be pretty common for her. Whatever it is it must be really bad. Ben adds. But what's worse than someone dying? He asks. Soon they see Maeve go inside and apart a few floors up. Really should have gotten some spy stuff. Ben laments. Well, we're not MI6 or CIA. Elena says, then sees Kimiko signing. No. We can't just break into the neighbor's place, our cover might get blown. She reported. Soon whatever discussion Maeve and her ex are having us out of window view so they don't know what's happening. At least we have a possible lead. Ben says, then feels his phone vibrating, looking at the caller ID he frowns in confusion. Hello. Kid, it's me. Rainer. Susan says on the phone. Look lady, if you want to arrest me Ben tries to say but gets cut off. I need your help. Now. Rainer says bluntly. If this is about Butcher you're on your own. Ben guesses. Believe me, this SHT is way worse. I know you know about translucent and everything . She tries to say. You knew too. Ben exclaims in shock. F. Rainer swears, not realizing he didn't know that she knew about translucent's fate. Look, this is really F up. But I need you to come to my office now. It's life or death. She tells him. How bad? Ben asks, hearing the panic in her tone. Like this will get those F at VOT into the military. You're our only chance to stop it. Please, just please come here. Rainer pleaded. Okay. Ben agreed before hanging up. We gotta go help Sussy. Ben tells the girls. What, why? Elena asks, not getting why they should abandon their best possible lead on something. Rainer called asking for help. Ben simply says. And? Elena responds, not understanding why. She said please. Ben informs, then adds. Twice. Elena and Kimiko then have a concerned look as Ben finishes with. Yeah, it seems real bad. CIA. XLR-8 runs in, bringing Elena straight to Rainer's office, but takes off in a blur. Where's the kid? The deputy director asks. 1 second. Elena requests, holding up a finger, feeling a little queasy. A few moments later XLR-8 comes in with Kimiko, then brings the trash so Elena could throw up in it. When did I eat corn? She asks before taking a few tissues to wipe her mouth. In a flash of light, Ben transforms back to his human self. Have no fear, the hero is here. Ben says with a bit of dramatic flair. What's the problem? He then asks. Follow me. Rainer simply says. Upper level. They soon entered a sort of mission room that was dark save for computer screens at the table and large screen on the front wall. Oh, must be really bad, we're in the restricted zone. Ben remarks as they entered. This is like computer geek heaven. Elena says, then observes one worker on a slightly older machine. Though it could use an update. I wish that's all I had to worry about. Rainer says, then orders. Pull up the video. Kimiko then signs to Elena, who speaks. Seriously, what's going on? As POV footage from a camera of a US soldier in Syria is being showed, Susan says. It's easier to just show you. The footage seems to show a standard operation to capture an ISIS captain in the area, until Nakib the Soup Trist, though not his real name, the translation is like chief in one aspect and investigator in another. Takes on a hail of bullets before detonating himself and killing all the soldiers. They instantly gasp in shock at this. Fortunately, because of the explosion, they don't witness too much as it's over in an instant and the footage goes black. You see. What the? Ben exclaims. Who is this guy? And how can he do that? Did Vought give him compound V? Elena adds, while Kimiko signs. Do you know where he is? He's a commander in ISIS, that's. Rainer begins. The terrorist group America created. Elena shoots. And as for the compound V, if Vought sent it, we don't know. Rainer answers rather than get into a debate. They have no ships or planes going into the area, they have brought relief aid in some neighboring countries, but no way it was smuggled through the ground. Word spreads fast and none of their people leave their humanitarian aid camps. As far as the where. Rainer continues, instructing someone to pull up a map. He's somewhere in the coastal mountains here. A map of Syria is pulled up with a circle around Al-Anariya. Place is littered with terrorists who want to fight the regime, Russia or us, so he might rally support soon. So you want me to go in and stop him? Easy peasy. Ben says. It has to be done quietly. Rainer tells him. No publicity, no video, no Facebook, no plane ticket, no flash when you teleport. Teleport? That's just stupid, have you seen me teleport? Ben scoffs. I haven't seen you turn into werewolf yet either, still not ruling it out. Rainer says. So go there, bring him in and we'll find a place to stash him. Whoa whoa. Whoa. Elena interjects. Last time he brought a soup for random guys, he was killed. She reminds. That's Butcher, I wanted to hold translucent and get information from him, but Butcher thought otherwise. Rainer reasons. Besides, if the public sees this, Vought will use it as fuel to light the fire for them to put Homelander and his pals in the military. Pause. Imagine Homelander out there, Tech Knight, Iron Cast, Behemoth, Jack from Jupiter, Whack Job, Blarney PP, Dog Knot. Listing off soups that have harmed and even killed people. I know you're trying to scare me, Ben begins. But I'm just feeling sorry for them, I mean who gives them these names. Ben adds. My worst named hero is 4 Arms and it's still better than any of theirs. And you're a kid. Elena chimes in. But you really wanna just give them. Naked. A random worker with several pieces of comic memorabilia on his desk says without thinking. Naked without a second thought. Elena finishes. Ben nods. I trust her more than Butcher. Okay, your call. Elena says. Gonna need an English to Arab translator, your fastest plane, and snacks. And some cool shades. Ben adds then continues in excitement. Oh, maybe some of those desert rag things so we can look like Lawrence of Arabia. And a megaphone. Megaphone? Raina raises an eyebrow. It's important. Ben simply replies. Now which way to Syria? Well, it's thousands of miles away, so, Elena begins to say. No, seriously, which way is it? Ben asked with full seriousness. 'Cause I only got a C in geometry and we were only doing Europe. Is it part of Europe? Rainer sighs. Just get to the jet, and hurry, 'cause tomorrow morning I meet Stillwell. Why? Ben asks. Well, originally it was to tell them how royally and unilaterally they were and put them in their place. But this changes the ball game. And I can't cancel, 'cause then they'll know something is up. Rainer explains. But doesn't it take like 12 hours to fly there? Elena points out. 11.78 hours. The same worker from before chimes in. Shut it, Lyle. Rainer orders. Can't you stall her, push back the meeting? Ben suggested. And how do I do that? Rainer says. I think I have an idea. Elena said before turning to Ben. You have a lawyer, right? Lily, yeah. Why though? Ben replies. Because you have a deal to make with the CIA. Elena exaggerates. A deal that needs to be reviewed, examined, checked and negotiated 1,000,000 times down to the last punctuation mark. And you need a lawyer to go through that long, grueling process and tedious paperwork. Elena continues to emphasize, looking at Rainer, who nods. Am I missing something? Ben asks. Kimiko then signs at Elena with an eye roll. Billions of people and he gets the super-powered space watch. Scene cut. Ben, Elena and Kimiko boarded the CIA plane and took off for the Middle East under the guise of a billionaire's trip to Kuwait. All while Rainer prayed to God she wasn't doing something stupid. With A-Train. A-Train was back from visiting his brother and was heading back to his apartment. At normal speed. Currently he was on the vault lobby floor, that was being repaired. Looking around he saw people doing their jobs as if it were any other day. As A-Train was heading to the elevator he saw a working trying to bring a piece of equipment in. And at the same time a lab worker walked in front of him. Neither bumped into each other, they were just in an awkward moment of getting in each other's way for a few seconds. But it stopped A-Train in his tracks for a second as he remembered something from his fight with Upgrade. Flashback. Once spread out the 7 then try to attack Shifter. With limited success. Black Noir was knocked down by swing of a cannon when he tried to jump Upgrade Optimus. Maeve's attack on his left flank was blocked, before she was blasted into a building. Starlight tried to fire her light blast at the same time he fired at her, resulting in an explosion that sent her back some distance. Before A-Train could even get back up, he was blasted to keep him down. As A-Train was getting up before he was hit it, someone or something was in front Upgrade Optimus for only the briefest of moments. Even A-Train didn't notice, and he was looking right at it. Flashback over. What the? A-Train says in confusion. Something on your mind? Stan Edgar asks, having just come in from his own outing. No, just remembering something. A-Train says as he leaves the building, despite having just entered it. Then turns back realizing that. Flashback. A train was trying to remember what, or who he saw but only remembers seeing black hair and a white coat. Though now he can remember his hand was on Upgrade Optimus' chest. But why? Desert. An American fighter jet was flying over a barren desert of Arizona. This is Draco at the coordinates and reporting that nothing is here over. The pilot reports. He had been assigned this last minute because the cameras were down for routine maintenance, but a sensor reported something passing by it at high speed. No satellites were reported to be crashed or down, so that was eliminated, and no meteors or other space objects were reported to be passing by. As the pilot was about to head back, he saw something flicker on the ground. "Hold on, sir, I think I'm spotting something," he reported. G3 base. A masked G3 soldier who was tasked with monitor the crash site via drones. Commander Solomon, a U.S. aircraft seems to be circling around the crashed vessel. He reports to his superior officer. "Lead it away with drones until either the pilot can get his camouflage equipment back online or our forces get there. Jam the plane's communications." Solomon orders. "It's critical we take the cargo." At the crash site. The pilot, call sign Draco, was circling around the area where he saw that flicker. Soon enough he saw it again, but as he was about to report in he found only static. "Command, do you read me over?" he asked. Static was his response. Just then machine gun fire was then heard as the pilot took evasive action. Nothing was on his radar and it definitely came for the air, so he had to rely on his vision to find it. Soon he saw a white orb drone with guns on it. "The F!" he exclaimed before receiving fire from two more drone. SHT. He soon began taking evasive maneuvers to avoid being hit by the drones. As the drones started to chase him, he adjusted his equipment and let them slowly gain on him before the pilot maneuvered his plane so it seemed to almost backflip. He also began firing 20mm bullets, hitting them and causing one to explode. The drones quickly turned around and the pilot had to turn his aircraft on its side in order not to crash into them. G3. "Sir," the pilot of the craft reported his craft fix. "Shall I recall the drone?" the G3 soldier questioned. Commander Solomon was watching the fight and narrowed his eyes behind his goggles. "No, keep them engaged," he orders as he sees the pilot take down another drone by flying dangerously close to the rocky terrain. "I want to see what this kid can do." With the pilot, Draco dived straight down and began spinning before pulling up and leveling out. He then made several hard turns by some rocky outcrops until one of the drones crashed into one. He then started going up and did the maneuver he used earlier to backflip. Only this time the drone seemed to hit the brakes as it was still behind him. F. He curses as he tries to either force it to crash or get behind it. But the drone seems to have caught on. "Never thought I'd actually do this," the pilot says before shooting his plane straight up. G3. "Sir, can our drones go that high?" the soldier asks. Solomon blankly stares at the screen displaying the drone's POV and the map of where they're fighting. "We're about to find out." Back to the fight. Eventually both the plane and the drone get to a high enough altitude where their engines and mechanics simply can't go beyond. They proceed to fall towards the ground momentarily, but Draco's craft is now behind the drone, which he soon takes care of. Unfortunately his plane is now in a free fall as he fails to restart the engines. SHT. He says as his instruments start beep. 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 "Shut up, I know I'm falling," he says as he desperately tries to prevent the plane's crash. "Screw it," he says before he ejects himself out of the plane. The pilot then gets launched out and his parachute deploys, slowing his descent and giving him the perfect view of his plane crashing. "Oh, I so F," he groans. Suddenly a new drone appears in front of him, scanning his face and name as it tries to identify him. F. The pilot exclaims and pulls out his sidearm and fires until it's emptied, doing nothing but making a few scratches. The drone then flies away, leaving the pilot stunned as he falls to the ground with a welcoming committee of jeeps ready to SCRT him. G3. Solomon reads the credentials of the pilot and says, "Bring him in." "With the pilot?" "What the hell, Captain?" the commanding officer exclaims as the pilot exits the hero. "Why was one of my F-22s flying all over like some outhouse fly after a big SHT show?" The commanding officer of the Air Force shouts. "Sir, I can explain." The pilot begins, but before he can, several blacked-out cars show up and several men and women wearing suits, glasses, earpieces, and sidearms step out and come over. "Who the hell are you?" the commanding officer demands to know, with his southern twang. "Dinah Madoni, Homeland Security." A woman of Iranian heritage introduces and flips up a badge. "We were testing new drones in the area when your pilot came across and they began firing. My commanding officer wants us to bring him in for questioning." Then instructs gestures for her people to cuff the pilot. "I wasn't aware of that fact." The Air Force commanding officer says. "Well, you're aware now. And we'll be taking Mr. Hayes into our custody." Madoni says. "Now listen here, Cupcake Dash," the commanding officer begins to say but is cut off. "Unless you want your wife in Kentucky, Georgia, or wherever hick town you're from to know about the 23-year-old Russian girl, the 22-year-old Vietnamese girl and the 19-year-old Venezuelan girl you pay to have them SCK your baby carrot of a PP, then smack around, you're gonna shut up and let me take him." Dinah Madoni threatens in a low tone so no one hears. The commanding officer is stunned, but doesn't say anything. Madoni takes that as her cue that he has his permission. "By the way, the Venezuelan is PRGN and that's why you haven't heard from her. And if I find out you hurt another girl again, I'll cut off your ball and feed them to you and put it online so everyone can see." She adds before leaving. Scene cut. Captain Hayes was blindfolded the moment he entered the van and was thrown as they made sharp turns. Until suddenly the BLNDFLD was off and the door was open to reveal an underground garage of cars, keeps, trucks and, is that a jetpack? Experimental. Madoni says as she starts pulling him in. "Better pray he likes you, otherwise you'll never be seen again." She says as if it's a regular occurrence. "Wait, for real?" he asks. "Why do you think nobody's found DB Cooper and why Kennedy's assassination was faked?" She casually says. "Wait, what?" the captain exclaims. "She's lying." A new voice spoke up, Solomon, as he stepped into the light. "Kennedy's assassination wasn't us," he informed. "As for DB Cooper, you're gonna have to wait for that one." This is where you gulp in fear. Madoni says, and sure enough he does. "I take it you guys aren't Homeland Security?" the pilot says. "Just Madoni for the day," Solomon answers. "Yesterday she was NYPD keeping a bunch of reporters away from Vought. Day before that a colonel that found evidence of espionage in the Pentagon." He lists off. "I'm gonna keep this short." Solomon continues. "I like you, I want you to fly with us. Decide now." "Say what?" the pilot asks. "Decide now or you'll make headlines that you died while in the custody of Homeland Security while trying to escape under the grounds you were responsible for a chemical attack in a residential town." Solomon threatens. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," the pilot exclaims. "I'm not gonna just blindly say yes, I'd like to know what I have to do." "You passed the first step," Solomon says. "What?" Hayes replies in a confused tone. He likes people who don't just jump at an answer, even when they're threatened. Madoni says. "I saw how you took down our drones. Your skill could be useful to us, especially in these dangerous times. And you'd do more than just drill, you'd be defending your country against the worst kind of enemy, aliens." Solomon says. "If you say yes, you'll never be able to tell anyone what you do, even after your death no one can find out. You'll most definitely be outgunned and outmatched, as will be hopelessly and hilariously outgunned against an invasion from space." "If I say no?" Hayes asks in curiosity. "Call your sister and find out." Solomon says, almost as if it's a threat. Hayes then reaches for his phone which he realizes was not taken. You hurt her, so help me. He threatens as he calls her. Speaker. Madoni says. Hello. Hayes says to his phone. Hello. A sniffling voice came. Michelle, you okay? The pilot asks his sister. Oh, thank you, thank you. The sister says. Confused by since he was expecting his sister to be in danger, he asks. For what? I just spoke with hospital. They said you fronted the money for Rachel's treatment. The sister says with sniffles. What do you mean? Hayes wonders. I didn't pay for anything. He adds, looking at Madoni and Solomon. Don't you lie, you prick. The sister says. I just spoke with the doctor, who came from London, and said you offered to pay for the whole thing. She informs. I know you weren't excited when I moved to LA for my career, but you've been so supportive. I can't even thank you. I promise to pay it back. She says with sobs. Hayes is still stunned by this. We're family, no matter what. And she's my niece, it's the least I could do. Skeptically looks at Solomon and Madoni before adding. And I'm sorry, by the way, it's your life, I was just scared. How did you even do this? Michelle asks. One round of this treatment is like almost 7 figures. And now I hear you paid for 15 just in case. Let's just say I got a new job. Hayes lies, while simultaneously saying yes to Solomon's offer. I gotta go, love you. I love you too, I need to call the studio, tell them I'm gonna busy for a while. Michelle accepts, then the call ends. How'd you know about them? Hayes asks. I read your file. Solomon answers. James Hayes, descendant of an IRA member who fought in the Irish War of Independence, who later served in the Second World War. Your father is a commandant in the Irish Army, but you never met him cause your mother was student who scammed married men by having their rendezvous recorded or caught on camera, then blackmail. Until she moved to the US and had you, took a secretary job and married an abusive man for 10 years in order for you and your sister to have roof over your heads. She died and the man is in prison. Just as you were accepted into Harvard to be a lawyer, you had to step up, so you joined the Air Force for the benefits and provided for her. Then you two had a falling out when she admitted she was gonna pursue a career in modeling and acting in LA, and you said you weren't gonna pay for that. For years you didn't speak until she called you several months ago asking for money for her daughter's chemo treatment, because even though she was making good money, the cancer was aggressive and most doctors gave her a few months to live, except for one experimental treatment in London which has promising results but is incredibly expensive, and the insurance wasn't gonna cover it until you fronted the bill. Solomon says, going into his life. Hayes just stands there stunned. This isn't a threat. This is an offer. I need people like you, not just because of your talents but for you as a person. Solomon adds. Someone who sees the odds stacked against him in almost every way possible and will do his best to overcome them, regardless of how hard or how long it takes. Pause. Do you accept? I do. Hayes agrees, this time with meaning. But she better get that treatment. Solomon smirks. Very well. And just so you know, that money we used to pay for Rachel's treatment we stole from the insurance company, so it didn't cost us a dime. When do I start? Hayes asks with a chuckle. Now. You have simulation against Martians in 15 minutes. Solomon says with seriousness. Martians, right? Hayes chuckles, thinking it's a joke, but then sees the serious look of their faces. Wait, there's actually Martians. Yeah, and they do not like us. Madoni says as they begin walking. With Ben, Elena and Kimiko. The three were on a CIA jet waiting for the go-ahead to jump. The flight would have taken more than 10 hours, but thanks to upgrade temporarily turning the plane into a rocket, they were in the Aegean within 30 minutes. This is because Ben had thought Greece bordered the country. It did not. Luckily they were using the time to form an actual plan, sort of. So we clear on the plan? Ben asked. Kimiko then signs which Elena translates. If you call landing and shouting, "Hey supervillain come attack me," with a megaphone a plan, then yes. Well, hopefully we find the group first, ask them where he is, and then, Ben pushes the sunglasses in his head down for effect. Neutralize this son of a hey. Ben gets cut off by Kimiko throwing a book at him. She doesn't like us swearing. Why do you think I never do it? Elena speaks. Well, okay then. Ben replies. Let's jump. Then notices they're still over water. In a few minutes. Sits down. So. Elena responds. You okay? Ben asks. Why wouldn't I be? Elena wonders. Well, your mom. Ben says, pointing out how she went through a traumatic experience not that long ago and seems relatively okay. I'm fine. Elena says. You sure cause, Ben tried to speak. Look, my mom barely spent time with me, paid other people to take care of me, and only had me for some PR to get money for funding. Elena cuts in. Yes, I'm sad she's dead. I already did my crying for it 'cause she's still my mom, but I don't really feel that sad to grieve. She adds. Okay. Ben replies, backing off. You are clear for drop. The pilot spoke up in an intercom. Kimiko then signs that nobody needed translation. It's go time. Grabbing their backpacks, they made their way to the door. Ben opened it and they jumped out, and midway he turned into Stinkfly and slowly flew down. As Stinkfly, Kimiko, and Elena touched ground, they looked up and saw the plane continue to fly until it was out of sight. They put on their sunglasses and looked around. They were in Al-Anaria, the coastal mountain range of Syria. Not what I was expecting. Ben says, almost sounding disappointed. Rambo 3 made it look more deserty. Rambo 3 was in Afghanistan, this is Syria. Elena clarified as they start walking. But don't they border each other? Ben asks. No. Elena answers. Have you looked at a map of the world recently, or at all? I've looked at maps. Ben responds. Just not ones of the Middle East. Elena guesses. Where's that? Ben ignorantly asks as they kept walking. They were all wearing clothes native to the region in order to blend in should there be cameras. Kimiko and Elena wearing hijabs, with the face uncovered, wearing loose pants and long shirts that go well past their knees with long sleeves. Ben sadly couldn't dress up like T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. He wore dark cargo pants, a long camouflage shirt with long sleeves and a hood, and a puffy green vest. They each carried a backpack with food, supplies, and some warmer clothing for when it gets dark. So how long do you think we have to look before they find us? Elena asks, looking around to the hills and mountains. Well, if they don't see us already. Ben began and took the megaphone he requested from Rainer and turned it on. Good morning Syria, or afternoon, not sure what time it is. They all look around and the only movement is of the shrubbery moving because of the wind and some birds flying. I am looking for Nakib, an ISIS member who can blow himself up. Ben adds as they keep walking. I would like to talk to him. I do not work for the American government, FYI, I just used them to get here so I could talk with Mr. Sorry, I don't know his real name, just that he can blow himself up. No response. Kimiko signs to Elena. It's gonna be a long day. Yup. Elena agrees, then shrugs. But what are you gonna do? She adds as they follow Ben. Scene cut. They're on a hill looking around. I come in peace. Scene cut. They're walking down another hill, as the sun sets a little. I'm not here to fight. Scene cut. They're walking across some flat land and the sun has gone down a little further. Are you listening to me? Scene cut. Elena and Kimiko are eating some sandwiches as Ben continues to talk. The sun is getting even lower. Seriously, how do people who want to be rebels or whatever find other rebels? You're impossible to find, which is great and all, but now I don't know if I'm talking to anyone or am just going crazy. Scene cut. They find a cave in the mountains, and as Elena and Kimiko set up, Ben is speaking utter nonsense. The sky is now orange as the sun is setting. Does cereal count as a soup? Scene cut. Elena and Kimiko are playing cards by a fire as Ben continues to talk out in the night. On the bright side, the loud booming voice seems to have scared off any predators. Well, this has been fun, except it wasn't. TTYL, that means, talk to you later, I think. Good night. Finally turns off the megaphone and turns to the girls and says. You guys didn't mind that? Elena looks up from her cards, then takes out her earplugs. You done? Ben goes to sit by the fire. Think we'll find them tomorrow? Elena shrugs. At least nobody else knows we're here. Mountains are usually rebel territory. Let's hope rebels find us before Blaster does. Ben says as he joins their game. So what are we playing exactly? Scene cut. Ben, Elena and Kimiko are sound asleep. The only sound is of breathing and the cracking wood as the remnants of the fire burns out. The sun has been rising for a while now, but due to the cave's location the sun won't come down on them until the afternoon. Just outside of the cave, several Syrians with their lower faces covered and armed with AK-47s have carefully trekked up the hill. They stand just outside the cave and peek in, rifles aimed. But one soldier suddenly and without warning sneezes. Achoo! Kimiko's eyes immediately open and she leaps forward, tackling one soldier. They roll down together, the angled terrain preventing either, mostly Kimiko, killing or fighting the other until they reach the bottom. The Syrian tries to point his Kalashnikov at her, she breaks before he can get off a shot. Yatawakafu. Kimiko hears as she's about punch right through his face. She turns and sees Ben and Elena have been pulled up and guns are pointed at them. Yatawakafu. Tawakuf asanatlik alner. They spoke in Arabic, and even though Kimiko didn't know the language, she understood the context. Stop or we'll shoot. Begrudgingly she held her fist back, and while gritting her teeth she got up and off the Syrian she was about to kill and held her hands in surrender. As Ben and Elena were being held by two men each, with at least one of them using a hand to aim their AK-47 at their hostage. Think they're the ones we're looking for? Elena asks with some fear. I'll let you know when I find out. Ben says, then looks at one guy. Bless you. Scene cut. With blindfolds on and their wrists tied together, Ben, Elena and Kimiko were being tugged to who knows where. Most of the soldiers kept a good distance away from all of them to make sure that if they did take off they could catch them. They didn't seem to be too aggressive as they kept the pace slow, though they had been making them walk for about an hour. Hal hada darurian haka? One Syrian asks to his comrade. Nima. La yamkinu marifat makan kaidatina. Another Syrian answers, like it's obvious. Athnan minhum atfalai. The first one points out, gesturing to the kids. Thik walakin tahakaka min siddiqui. The second soldier replies, while patting his comrade's shoulder. Thik walakin tahakaka. He repeats. What are they saying? Ben asks while still walking. I don't know, I don't speak Arabic. Elena says. Well, they haven't hit us yet, so that's good. Ben points out, expecting to be hit by the rifle stock of a Kalashnikov. Maybe they didn't hear you. Elena points out, not wanting to get her hopes up. For all she knows they could be Syrian regime soldiers, or even mercenaries of another country. Hello there. Ben starts speaking. So did you know where we were and just waited for us to lower our guard down, or did you just find us by accident? He asks. Mata kal al-sabai? The apparent leader asks one certain Syrian. Yurid and Yerif kaif wajidnahu. The Syrian says, his voice indicating he was quite young. Kol la and Usamata. The leader tells him. My commander is requesting you to be quiet. The Syrian says with good English and no hindrance or mispronunciation by his accent. Your English is good, where'd you learn it? Ben replies. School. The English-speaking Syrian answers without thought. Another Syrian groans. Hanan dha, Syabda Byaunaba mithl alkalbine dama yakin hunak shaks ma ain albabai. He says, which causes several of them to chuckle. Hada yakfa. Han alwak lodukali. The leader says, then looks up to the sky. Wasatabda altairat walmer wahiat byaltalik kariba. They then change direction and speed up the pace, though not excessively. Must be close. Elena guesses as she almost trips on rock, but quickly regains her balance. Good, because I'm starving. Ben says. Think they serve pancakes? Of course, Elena replies with a hotel smile. They also offer hot stone massages and laundry service. She adds with total sarcasm, getting Kimiko to chuckle a bit. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 14. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author AU Fan62 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.